porch right now. We're very lucky. We just off screen here, I have this big message board with all kinds of interesting facts coming in, wind gusts and coastal flooding. And I'm seeing right now there's coastal flooding in Riviera Beach. So we're going to go take a look at that with some reporters and see what's going on there. But let me show you what's happening right now with Dorian as it continues to move to the north. It's actually picked up speed. Well, kind of. It's now moving at 3 miles per hour. It started at 1, now 2, now 3. So it's making its way up to the northwest here. We continue to see these rain bands coming in, and they are creating some pretty gusty winds across the area. So you have sustained winds and you have gusty winds. So here's the difference between the two. A sustained wind is the maximum wind speed for 1 minute. For a 1 minute time period. So if you measure, if you have a 30-mile-per-hour sustained wind, that's a wind that blows at 30 miles per hour for 1 minute, then you've measured that. Then anything above that sustained wind for about 20 seconds or so is a gust. So you have the sustained wind here, and then you have a gust over top of that. So some viewers were asking about sustained winds and gusts, and that's the difference between the two. Sustained winds last longer, gusts are just short little bursts of wind. And so as we take a look at these rain bands coming in, we've got already sustained winds around, but then you get these gusts from the bands that are swinging in, and those gusts could be 40, 45, 50, 55 miles per hour, 60. We've had a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust so far today. And I want you to see that Dorian's on the move here. If I put my finger in the middle of this loop right here, and you watch the eye traveling up to the north, from where my finger is located, you can see that general motion up to the northwest as Dorian is moving at 3 miles per hour now. Let's take a look at some of these rain bands coming in. We got a long rain band here from Port St. Lucie to Stewart to Hobe Sound to Jupiter and down to Palm Beach Gardens. That's some pretty heavy rainfall, and that's tracking down toward the southwest. We've also got a bunch coming in down south a little more, but here's the latest track for Dorian, and we're going to get a new track coming up at 5 p.m. today, and we'll get a little bit of a more detailed update at 2 p.m. today. So we'll get a couple more details at 2 p.m. and probably an update on watches and warnings, and then at 5 p.m. you get a more extended detailed advisory that includes the new track, the new intensity forecast, which means how strong it's going to be at different points along the track, as well as a very detailed discussion about what they have discovered since the last big update, which was at 11 a.m. So here's what we're looking at now. As of right now on this track, the storm moves up pretty much parallel to the northern Treasure Coast by the time we get to 8 p.m. So that means there's going to be a lot of rain bands coming in along the Treasure Coast, especially northern Treasure Coast during that time. But those rain bands could stretch all the way south down into at least northern Palm Beach County. Then overnight tonight, the storm picks up speed. It keeps moving north. And by tomorrow morning, it's already maybe north of the Space Coast. And then it keeps on going up toward Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. And boy, oh boy, I've had friends and family who live up in this area already starting to text me and saying, what do you think? What's going to happen here? And there's certainly in the cone, there are computer models that bring it up onshore here or very close to it as a Category 2 storm. So that is something we have to watch very carefully. And then it moves off to the northeast very quickly. So we have the 2 a.m., 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m. The next one coming out is going to be 2 p.m. It'll change a couple of things. It'll adjust the position of the center of the storm, and then any current changes to strength or motion, and then watches and warnings changes. Usually not a track change in those intermediate updates. So let's talk about winds. We saw those rain bands coming in. We've also got wind gusts. They're going to be pretty big throughout the day today. This is the European model we're using here, and these are potential wind gusts. As we move through the rest of the afternoon, we could see wind gusts 46, 52 miles per hour as the storm continues to move north. Here's 4 p.m. this afternoon, and we're seeing more of those wind gusts in the 50s. And then as the storm progresses to the north, and it continues that northwesterly track, it swings in a little closer to the northern Treasure Coast. So as we get into the evening hours, especially mid-evening, we could see wind gusts 60 miles per hour or higher as some of those rain bands swing on in. And then once it moves north of our area overnight tonight into tomorrow, here's noon tomorrow, and you can see we just have a breezy to somewhat windy day, but much clearer conditions. Around 4 p.m., this is VIPREcast. You'll see the rainfall still around, those rain bands coming in. And then as we get, here's what I was talking about. We get to the mid-evening hours and the storm swings in a little closer to the northern Treasure Coast and Space Coast. We get some pretty good sized rain bands swinging in. But once we get to the morning hours, it's up to the north there. There it goes. And that's pretty much it. And then we'll just be left with, well, some windy conditions and maybe some showers as we get into tomorrow. But actually, we're looking at much less stormy conditions after we get through early tomorrow morning. Watches and warnings that are still in effect. We still have the hurricane warning in effect along the Treasure Coast. And it's because of that close shave in the computer models where the storm swings in a little closer to the Space Coast there. Hurricane watch has been dropped for Palm Beach County. We still have the tropical storm warning along the coast in Palm Beach County and in Okeechobee County. And the storm surge warning has been dropped for Palm Beach County, but still in place there for the Treasure Coast. So that's a quick look at the latest on Dorian. We'll have more coming up in just a few minutes.